also loyal. Be loyal. Folks, I'm not very good at a lot of things. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. I'm not. I'm not very good at very many things. But there's one thing I am very good. I am loyal. I would have made a great dog. You pet me, you feed me, you give me shelter, I'm not going to bite your arm. But you know what's really sad? How many times I go into organizations, an outsider coming into an organization, and the first thing I hear from people inside that organization is what a lousy organization they work for. And forgive me, but this is what I think. Isn't that kind of hypocritical? That you walk up and take a check and then turn around and badmouth the very organization that pays your mortgage, feeds your kids, educates your kids, gives you a retirement. I can't buy that, folks. I'm sorry. I believe we've got to be loyal to the organizations that we represent, but we also have to be loyal to the people. A few years ago, I was still living in Florida at the time. I booked a speaking engagement in South Central Kentucky, my home state. I flew into Louisville, Kentucky, and I had reserved a rental car that would take me to my engagement. And I landed in Louisville, and I went up to the rental car agency, as I had done dozens and dozens of times before in my career, and I said, I'm Philip Van Hooser. She pulled up my reservation. I handed her my credit card. I handed her my driver's license. She looks at the both, and then she looks up at me, and she says, Sir, I'm sorry, we can't rent you a car. What? I've rented hundreds of cars. Yes, sir, I see you have. But, sir, we can't rent you a car today. Why not? Your driver's license has expired. Oh, man. And immediately, involuntarily, I looked this way, down this whole list of other rental car agencies, and she saw me look, and she said, and they ain't going to rent you one either. So we can't rent you a car if your license is expired. We'll get fired. Well, I understood that. Oh, man. And then I started thinking, plan B. What am I going to do? Who do I know in Louisville, Kentucky? And immediately, a gentleman's name came to mind. He was a friend of mine, or at least had been years ago in college, a good friend. His name was Rob Jarrell. I thought of Rob. I know Rob lives in Louisville. Now, never mind that I hadn't talked to him in 10 or 11 years, hadn't seen him in 10 or 11 years. Rob lives here. I'll call Rob. I looked up the number. I called Rob up on the phone. A female voice answered. I figured it would. Rob's wife, Ruth. I also knew Ruth from college, but not nearly as well as Rob. Okay? So a female voice answers the phone and says, hello, and I says, hello, Ruth? And she said, yes, who is this? I said, Philip Van Hooser. She said, Philip Van Hooser, my goodness gracious, how long has it been? I said, it's been a long time. Well, it's so good to hear from you, Phil. Well, it's good to talk to you, Ruth. Phil, where are you now? Well, right now today I'm in Louisville. Well, I hope we can see you while you're in Louisville. I hope so too, Ruth. Ruth, I don't have a lot of time here. I got to cut to the chase. I've got a speaking engagement in South Central Kentucky that I got to be to in just a few hours, and my license has expired. They won't rent me a car. Can I borrow a truck? All of a sudden, on the other end of the phone, all I heard was, that was it. Finally, after this prolonged silence, I said, Ruth, is Rob around? She said, almost desperately, no, he'll be home in 10 or 15 minutes. I said, how about if I call back in 10 or 15? Yes, that would be good. And so I hung up and I sat down. I waited 10 or 15 minutes, then I called the number back. And I swear to you, this is exactly how the conversation went. A male voice answers this time. He said, hello. I said, Rob. He said, Phil. He said, where are you, Phil? I said, at the airport. He said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Tell me where to meet you. That was it. That was it. 10 minutes later, two vehicles pulled up. Ruth driving the first car, Rob driving the truck behind. We all get out on the curb. We hadn't seen each other in 10 or 11 years. Handshakes, hugs. Didn't take more than 3 minutes max. Rob pitches me his keys to the truck, and he says, okay. He said, the registration's in the glove compartment. If a police officer stops you, tell him whatever you will, I'll back you up. And I got in the car, and as I'm pulling away from the curb, I rolled down the window and hollered at him, supper's on me tomorrow night. He gave me the thumbs up, and off I was gone. The next night, I was back in Louisville, Kentucky, and we're all sitting and having supper. We're needling Ruth a little bit because of her hesitancy. She was a good sport. But then Rob said, Phil, I got to tell you a story. He said, this morning Ruth took me to work because I didn't have a vehicle. He said, I forgot that she took me to work, and by the time work was almost over, I finally realized, wait a minute, I don't have a ride home. Ruth couldn't come and get me. He said, so I started walking around the office asking people, anybody give me a ride, anybody going my way? And he said, finally, I happened upon a young woman in the office who said, yeah, Rob, I live out that way. You can ride with me, but where's your car? Is it in the shop? No, it's not in the shop. I loaned it to a friend. Really? Who'd you loan it to? Oh, you wouldn't know him. He was a friend from college. I hadn't seen him in several years, 10, 11 years at least. You loaned your car to a friend you hadn't seen in 10 or 11 years? Yeah. Why'd you do that, Rob? He didn't have a license. Rob, you loaned your car to a friend that you hadn't seen in 10 or 11 years who doesn't have a license. Yeah, that's about it. Rob, where did he take your car? I don't know. I didn't even ask him. Rob, you loaned your car to someone you hadn't seen in 10 or 11 years who doesn't have a license, and you don't know where he took it? He said, that's about it. She said, Rob, why would you do that? And according to Rob, he said, well, he's my friend. Loyalty. Think about it for a second, folks. You'll work with the people that are sitting around you right now and spend more time with them than you do your own family members. Right? Now, let's be honest. You don't like all of them the same. Some of them you don't like at all. Guess what? I don't like all my family members either. Right? But I love them. And I'll work for them, and I'll try to make them successful, and I'll try to help them. I won't stand in their way. Why? Because I'm loyal to my family. I believe we've got to be loyal as an act of professionalism to our company and to those that we work